Thank you for coming back to the Hector's Hard campaign. We have reached the outside burn, and we are going to fight the members of Black Fang, who include Butthole to my right, who I will attempt to steal good lance off of, but not sure can. We will see. If not, that okay, we will move on with game. Ooh. Ooh. What is new with everyone in this world today? A lot of people irritated. Not to get into a political subject, but I know a lot of people are irritated right now with the possible, not possible, incoming, not incoming tariffs that are on the horizon as of April 15th, 2025. For my future folk out there living in the far-flung future of tomorrow, or the next day, etc. You probably have a better idea of how this ultimately plays out than I ever will in the present moment that I'm recording this. I don't really personally again, I'm trying not to make this political because I don't really think the tariffs are the right way to handle stuff. I understand the concept of what he's trying to do. I don't agree with what he's doing. Am I gonna get angry and go rage in the street? No. Am I gonna go blow up a Tesla dealership? No. Am I gonna go burn someone's house down because I disagree with them? No. Am I gonna go to the PA governor's house and burn his mansion down? No. A lot of those things I just mentioned are more common or current event things. Guy got angry at the governor of Pennsylvania and decided he was going to light his house on fire, the governor's house. The house that, the governor lives. Not just a specific aristocrat person, but anyone who's governor, elected governor, could live there. So, some deranged people out there. I don't know. I feel like in some ways, as a byproduct of the way we run ourselves, in terms of, we put, well, you gotta run. You gotta be the best. You are the best. You're the alpha male. You just haven't lived up to your potential yet. All this expectation, and then on the other end, when you get to maybe more of a down-to-earth sort of point of view on this, ultimately we just need the basics: the food, the water, the shelter. Okay, but somewhere along the way we get kind of spoiled on, well, what else can I do with my money? Now, obviously, no one wants to live paycheck to paycheck and basically say, well, I don't have enough money for food and water and shelter. Okay. So, one of those things end up having to give. You end up giving up your health care, your quality of housing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then, in turn, you run into this problem where people don't have... it's deeper than what I'm even saying. I want to say, people don't have access to mental health services, so that's why, we're so screwed up. It's like, no, I feel like we're more screwed up because, for the most part, the ability, the ability to live in the United States is very expensive, okay? And it doesn't help there are going to be a lot of people that are going to be better off than you. And you're not able to understand about how to live within your means. I can't help you. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, I feel for you, but at the same time, like, whether you make, you know, $20,000 a year, $100,000 a year, $1 million a year, if you are not capable of living within your means, it does not matter how rich or poor you are, or how much money you pull in. And I understand, you know, if you're a rich person, you know, you make lots of money, you want to try to impress your friends and live in an affluent neighborhood, but I just see too many people, and I know this is a generalization, I see too many people living in a house that is just is a foot away from, you know, their grasp. It's a stretch. We can do this if we really. This is where the discipline comes in. We could do this if we buckle down and really stick to our gun. Well, things happen. People get sick. Your car breaks. You got to do repairs, and all of a sudden that perfect plan kind of flows, you know, goes down the drain. And you know, I'm not telling anyone what to do with their money. You wanna do whatever you want. You know, you want to invest it. You don't want to invest it. You want to live every day it's your last. That's perfectly your prerogative, because, as I've mentioned before, you know, we don't know how long we have. We go to work tomorrow, wake up tomorrow, you know, what have you, and just keel over. You know, I mean, for younger people, that's, you know, like I said, less likely to happen, provided you don't, you know, you don't have some sort of genetic problem, or, you know, you have cancer or what have you, or you're not a complete idiot, jump off a bridge because you want to impress your friend, sort of kind of dumb stupidities, things like that. But and I mean, I understand in a lot of ways. I feel like people are underpaid for what they do, and by that I mean, you know, is minimum wage the minimum? I'm getting political now. Is minimum wage the minimum that you need to live on? Like, for instance, if I pay you minimum wage, whatever the minimum wage is right now, in your state, we're not going to talk nationwide, we're just going to talk individual states. If I pay you your state's minimum wage, are you able to, here's how it works, feed yourself, clothe yourself, house yourself, get yourself to and from work, so that you can continue to make paycheck, okay? And at the end of the day, at the end of the month, after you've paid all of your bills, all of your necessary bills, not excess bills, okay? Do you still have money left over in your pocket? I don't mean $100. I don't mean $1,000. I don't need $1 million. I mean, do you have some amount of money left over in your pocket at the end of the month that you can spend on something we'll say is frivolous? Whether that be, you know, I choose to eat, I don't know, like hot dogs. Hot dogs are very cheap. They're not very good for you, but you say, hey, I'm gonna insert hot dogs here as a low-cost food, meat substitute, okay? And that's going to give me more money to spend on something else I want to, okay? Or, you know, I want to go out to eat once a month. Or, if I save up my money over the course of a couple months, can we take a trip? You know, that's sort of the life that I think people should be able to live on minimum wage. Does that mean that living on minimum wage should equate to eating hot dogs every night because that's all you can afford? You know, at the end of the month, you're going to have to make sure you have enough money for your electric bill, your if you have gas bill, water, you know, the whole 9 yards. Now, I believe that you know, provided that you are living, we'll just say a somewhat comfortable life where you've got food on your table, You have options on what kind of food you get. So, for instance, if something's on sale, then you're incentivized to buy that piece of meat or what have you. So you can have a variety of different foods, vegetables, meats, fruits, fruits, cheeses if you choose, milk, you know, whatever else that you don't want to have. And you know, at the end of the day, you're as an individual, you're able to feed yourself and clothe yourself and house yourself, and still have a little bit of money left over. I think that would be the ideal for minimum wage. Now, I understand this is where the counter argument comes in. Well, then my McDonald's is just going to go up, and my Burger, nothing's going to be affordable. We're just going to cause inflation because, you know, I'm going to give you all this money, and that means that all these services have to go. You know, the cost of all these services have to go up. I hear that. But I wonder, as rich as some people are, and I don't know, in some way, apples and oranging this conversation, because the man who runs the local business, the local hardware store, the, you know, what have you, is not the same person who is the person who is running a multi-million-dollar company. Okay? And capitalism incentivizes you, the business owner, to keep wages as low as possible while still retaining your talent. So, because the lower you can keep, the lower you can keep your expenses, wages being obviously a large expense, the better you can do with your company, because you can have then that at the end of the, you know, again, end of the year, instead of paying people fairly, you get extra profits. So your company looks like it's doing really good instead of making, you know, after all your bills are paid and after everybody's gotten their paychecks, you know, you paid out your stockholders, your investors or so, you're left with X amount of dollars left over, okay? And then what do you do with those X amount of dollars? Well, you got to obviously take care of whatever place you're doing, whatever building you have. You know, you have to factor in that, you know, in all likelihood, things are going to be a little more expensive than they were last year because, you know, it only takes one domino to really affect the whole chain of, you know, the way things are done, you know, and in many ways it comes down to the consumer. If the consumer goes to the grocery store and he sees or she sees $10 bananas, you know, $10 a pound bananas, maybe that's a good deal. That's probably a terrible deal because I've been to the grocery store. I know that's probably twice what most people pay for bananas. But you have that choice. Do you want the bananas for $10? Do you not want the bananas for $10? And then, because produce is produce, your options in the grocery store are sell the bananas or lose the money on the bananas that you already bought. Because food goes bad. But here's the other beauty. If you don't have enough supply to fulfill that demand, then you're going to walk into a grocery store one day and find that all the food, a lot of the food is missing out of the pantries. You feel like you're in, you know, a communist third world nation where it's like, oh, look, the meat drawer has no meat in it. And the bread aisle has no bread in it. Oh boy. But getting back to the point of the tariffs, I don't really care for the tariffs because it is a tax, whether we like it or not. It is a tax that is being placed on goods not once you buy them, but before you buy them. So, you know, I import I don't know, let's just say a Switch 2. That Switch 2 costs $300. Well, there's a 20% tariff, maybe. on goods coming from Japan. Well, Japan could then send that Switch to be made in Taiwan or Vietnam. I think it's Vietnam where they sent it. Oh, but because we have a person who's essentially just sort of talking out their asshole in many ways. There's not a concrete plan of, well, we want to punish this particular country because we feel that we're getting an unfair trade deal. No, you're pulling out your shotgun and you're shooting your tariffs all over the place in the effort that you hit the duck, the one duck you wanted to hit. That's great, but, what about all the other things you hit in doing so? And my point is, oh, well, we're going to put tariffs on Japan. Japan says, okay, we're going to send our production over to Taiwan or Vietnam, I mean. And then, Trump turns around and goes, well, I don't really care about what's going on regarding your stupid video game system, Christopher. But I'm also going to place tariffs on Vietnam as well, except those are going to be 30%. Now you're all of a sudden you're like, the carefulest of laid plans have gone awry. So, one of the things that people are complaining about is the price of Nintendo Switch 2, which is this is going to be old news by the time this episode comes out. Some people speculate that the price that's coming to America, because it's a little higher than the Japanese exclusive, is because of tariffs that are being placed on not only Japan, but the rest of the world. They're trying to make sure that should we price out the console, we've got the tariffs already factored in there. The other unfortunate fear is that is the price of the console with some or no tariffs already factored in. And in turn, what we're going to do is we are going to we're going to see an MSRP at the price it's currently listed at, which I think is, what, $450 or something ridiculous like that right now? And then the tariffs are going to come in on top of it, and, Nintendo is going to sell the consoles to the market, the media, or not the media, the stores, the Amazons, the Best Buys, your GameStops, if they're still around. I presume they'll still be around, but, places where you can pick up a Target, Walmart, that sort of thing. They're going to sell it for whatever the retail price is, or whatever they've agreed upon, the price that the realtor is going to pay for it, then they'll have a certain amount of profit built in there. So if MSRP is, say, $400, I'm not really in that line of work anymore, but we'll say that you're going to sell the console for, say, I don't know, $400 MSRP, but each business is only going to buy the console for, say, $350 or maybe even $300. I'm not really sure what percent margin companies get, because obviously they're buying up the consoles and then they're going to sell them, and then they need to make a profit, obviously. So, but you're going to be are you buying the console at, say, if the MSRP is $400, are you buying it $400, or are you buying it $400 plus whatever the tariff is, let's say 20%. So that would be what, $480? Well, I guess that's what they pay for it as well. So if it's $300 and you have 20% markup, that would be $360, and then they would want to make not only the $360, obviously, plus that $100. So yeah, be paying about $460 for it, somewhere in that ballpark, depending. There'd be probably the market would agree on some sort of price of what would be considered acceptable, i.e., you don't want to go below this percentage of, say, 20%. or 10% or 15%, and like I said, we'll settle on a price somewhere in there. But the real question is, tariffs included before, or will they be included after? So, and then Nintendo's doing kind of an interesting thing that even though a lot of people are giving a lot of shit for the cost of the console, and probably rightfully so, okay, so I gotta revise my thing. It's actually even worse than I thought it was. The Switch is gonna come out, the MSRP on this is gonna be $450, rounded up by 1 penny. If you want the Switch 2 plus Mario Kart World Bundle, it's going to be $500, again rounded up 1 penny. So, you know, if the tariff is, say, 10%, you're looking at a $550 console. If you're taking the MSRP as the street price that you know, is going to be charged by each business. So, I don't want to say I can't justify $550, but boy, $550 is a steep fucking price. But I'm looking more in the ballpark. I wish it would have been more in the ballpark of maybe about, I don't know, $400 for the you know, the Mario Party or the Mario Kart pack one. You know, make that $450. You know, make that $400. You know, is your sort of your top level. Because, you know, getting beyond that starts to become a little bit difficult for me to justify, let alone anyone else. But the fact that it's not coming out at like the holiday time, I don't know. I'm asking the same question that probably every pundit in the world is asking. You know, is this console actually cost this amount of money, or are they making one hell of a profit payday? And, you know, in 6 months, okay, let's say in 8 months, okay, which will put us into 2026, okay, so we'll be past the holiday rush, you know, the December holiday rush, where, you know, things are likely, if prices don't change in September or early October, they will not change for Christmas. So if you're looking in 2026, do you see a price decrease? I can't say that that's at all going to happen. Just because I mean, just ignoring the tariffs for a second, I don't know if Nintendo will drop this fucking console $50. You know, let alone get it, you know, the drop dead price for the bundle, you know, $100 to get you down to $400, you know. But if for some reason tariffs are included in this MSRP they've given, and the tariffs turn out not to be a thing, do we then see a price decrease? Because I very much know that if I was Nintendo right now, what I would do is if you've baked in tariff prices into the cost of this console, I'd very much hold on those tariffs. I would not budge. I understand this is me talking out both sides of my asshole, but I would not budge on that until I had some guarantee that there were not going to be additional or any tariffs levied against my country. Because and then again, when I'm telling Japan what to do, as if the United States, if we got tariffed by Japan, do you think we give two flying fucks about the cost of our, I don't know, Xbox? I know they don't buy Xboxes over there. They're very loyal to they're Japanese brands, Sony and Nintendo. But I'm trying to think of something that we might send over to Japan that would be unique. That's not, say, media. I don't know. It's difficult because I say this as a person who does a lot of purchasing for a job. It's rough because what happened is I had probably already told this story, but we had a part that was like, it was not a big part. It was like a nut or a bolt or some sort of crossover, something or other, and it dropped. The price went from like $5 down to $1. And I can't actually remember what the price was, but it was some real stark, like, well, we've been buying this part from you for years. Why did it go down? Why did it go down $4? I mean, I don't know what the percentage is on that, but it's more than 100%. Well, no, it's not 100%. It's whatever. Not even doing my math now. Great. But yeah, it went down. The value went from 5 to 1. You know, that's an 80% drop in the price from where we were, you know, 6 months, a year ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago to today. What changed? They stopped sourcing from the United States. Why? Because even with the upcoming tariffs, they could increase the price by, let's say, double. I understand tariff's not going to be double. It's not going to be 100% tariff. But let's say the price doubles. I'm still saving more than 50% over what I was paying last year from an American product. And the whole supply and demand thing, you know, factors into that. But so does the end price. If you're telling me that I can buy the same quality item, I know nothing's the same. They're all a little different. But can I buy a quality product that will work in my application, and you're telling me that I can save 80% over an American competition? Why not? You know, it's a competition thing. I understand different places. I went down to Colombia. I probably already talked about this as well. I went down to Colombia. The American dollar goes really far down there because the cost of everything is just tiny. So you don't need as much money. You don't need to make as much money. You don't have to demand as much money to live. And then, of course, you have to factor in transportation, air, sea, whatever. It made that very economical. And a lot of that is also based on costs of oil. So if oil goes up, there's a good chance that suddenly all of this competition becomes less competitive, but in the turn, that also means that you and me in America are paying higher prices at the gas pump, which we refuse to do. We instead will buy our big old trucks and our big old cars. I mean, the sedan I have a very large car as compared to the cars I saw down in Colombia. Okay, very compact cars that use very little gas. That not very fast. I'm not sure if they're fast. They just don't have a lot of horsepower to them. But they don't need as much gas either. See? On the flip side of that, you know, I've got a what I consider a small sedan. Sedans are going away. I mean, Ford only makes the Mustang, and different kinds, but you know, the Bronco is one of those Broncos. God damn it. The Mustang is something that they've been putting out for years. It's a muscle car. It's like their sports car. You know, you could do away with it, but it'd be really hard to do because you've got a dedicated fan base, people that watch those things. But my car's I mean, in comparison to the car I had previously, which was a Toyota Corolla, it is humongous. Okay, much bigger than the Toyota Corolla I had back in 2000. I think it was an '09. But the Corolla today is bigger than it was from '09 as well. But my car is tiny compared to some of the SUVs, the crossovers, the trucks. You know, it doesn't take nearly as much gas as those do. And didn't cost nearly as much either as those cars do. But at the same time, like, I'm not crying necessarily. I do, it does irritate me when I have to go, you know, pay an extra $1 or $2 per, because, you know, if gas is $3 a gallon and I have a 10-gallon tank, that's $30. Yeah, this is me doing the mind trick. Unfortunately, what's-her-face is not close enough to me. So, I now have control of the Red Army. But unfortunately, I'm not close enough. And all those guys up there, they're already done with their turn. Which is unfortunate, because if they weren't done with their turn, I could possibly pass Spear along, like I'm doing right now, and then have them go down and give it to Pent, Louise, whoever. So instead, what we're just going to do is we're just going to dump. You know, we're going to have a little bit of a graphical problem here for a bit, because I'm basically in a section that I'm not supposed to be in. But we're just going to basically dump. We're going to trade, and we're going to dump items that we can dump. So I'm going to toss out their weapons here. Fortunately, I will not get the spear. He cannot wield the spear, first of all, and second of all, once I defeat the guy, he still will not drop the spear, so it's irrelevant. I'm not restarting this level just for that spear. Only 15 uses, so I'd have to make sure I'm really careful of how I use it. But, you know, talking about gas. If gas is $3 a gallon, and I have a 10-gallon tank, that's $30. If gas is $4, now it's $40. And if you have to refill your tank every week, you know, you're looking at the difference between, say, what is that, $120 and upwards of $200 if gas hits $5 a gallon. So, I don't know. And then, of course, supply and demand affects grocery prices, affects your ability to live, makes your wage feel much lower than it actually should be. So, I get it, but nothing's easy about the economy. I understand it's more or less like being a weatherman. Too many factors to factor in, and no matter how much information we're able to gather, there's always just a little too much out there for us to really be able to fully forecast what's going to happen. However, I will say one thing, and I'll close out the episode by saying the way that very rich people make, you know, avoid paying tax. I mean, aside from what I think is just personally bullshit, that is a bubble ready to pop. You know, where you basically are borrowing money based on the value of your stock. So you don't have to pay any taxes, but you're still making money. And then what you do is when your loan's up, you just get out a new loan for to pay the old loan off, and then again use your stock as collateral. That's got to pop at some point, because you borrow, you know, say you're Elon Musk, you're worth $10 billion. You borrow $100 million in a loan, and suddenly your stock goes down, and you're not worth 10 billion anymore. You're worth 7 billion or 5 billion or 4 billion. I mean, the stock, the collateral you put up is worth so well less than what you did. I'm no banker. I'm no economics. I'm no economic scientist or whatever. That's good. If the stock market takes a shitter, that's gonna exacerbate the problem very quickly. And I do not, in that case, where banks are loaning this money knowing that it's not a smart thing to do, and these companies are taking advantage of it, there should be no bailouts for them. No bailouts for the banks that made these stupid loans, and no bailouts for any billionaire who's down on their luck because their stocks are in the toilet for a couple years. And they've got all these loans being called in that they can no longer pay because they're upside down. Anyways, this is the last turn. There's not a lot left on the board either, so episode will end kind of abruptly, I think.